Investigators, the disastrous oil spill in Siberia is due to security violations. The Norilsk power plant had been banned from using the container that leaked 21,000 tons of fuel.
Получено заключение экспертизы промышленной безопасности, согласно которому резервуар номер 5 не в полной мере соответствует требованиям промышленной безопасности и может эксплуатироваться при условии выполнения ряда ремонтных мероприятий.
The plant's director and 2 engineers have been arrested for breaching environmental protection rules. These satellite images show the area before the spill, right after the spill, and 2 days later, when the fuel polluted new chunks of the Obernaya River. Rescue teams have used booms to contain the oil and pump it into containers. This first phase of the operation will take days, but that doesn't mean the river will then be clean.
Thorough cleaning will take years. Why? Because we perform mechanical cleaning. And to completely clean the territory, it must be treated with sorbents, organic products, coagulants, which will process the fuel.
The first visible effects of the spill are the dead animals found across the region. This river leads to a freshwater lake, a major source of drinking water. Environmentalists are even more concerned by what will happen next if the fuel reaches the Kara Sea, leading to the Arctic Ocean. They say that would be a disaster.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House tonight. I hope that you guys are all doing well and that you can hear me well. I've had a little audio problem, and but I see that there's a lot of you here, and this is great. So let me check out everything. Hi, Jen.
Hey, how you doing?
I am okay. I was a little stressed out because it took me a little bit of time to get this ready today. And it's like nothing seems to want to work right. But I'm making it.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah,
I know
technical
how
problems.
those weeks go.
Oh, and everybody's joining us. This is great. Let me see if I can just say hi to everybody before we get started. Hi, guys. It is just wonderful to see all of you with us. I need a deep breath. I think we need some deep cleansing breaths tonight. Because we have a lot of material tonight. And let's say hi to Kevin Hester, the Divas of Doom. And
awesome.
Hi, Kevin. And my God, and Kim's here. Oh my gosh, Antonio's with us. Sorry, guys, I have the driest lips ever. I mean, I just wasn't ready. Plus, I was trying really hard to get my headset to work, but it didn't. So as long as you can hear me, that's good. Antonio, it's great to see you. We have a lot of stuff tonight. I hope you liked the video that we played. The audio sounded a little funny to me, but so it, whatever. I don't know. It's probably because of this stuff, but welcome. So Jen, what you been up to?
Oh my God, I've been working much too hard, and I'm so excited about our show tonight. I just love coming in here and doing these shows. I mean, even though you're working really hard during the week, even though this is a lot of work, it's really a relief to do this work because it's true, it's real, it's important, all
Yeah.
these things, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the big thing that it's been upsetting me, Norilsk, for since it started, because they're worried about the diesel oil going out farther, and it's pretty hairy. So I think we should get started. We're getting a good crowd, and let's get started. All right.
Yeah,
All right, I
yeah,
am
let's go
going
ahead
to
and get
put
started.
on the first article, Jennifer, which actually this article, oh my God, yeah, the article that we have on is actually just a recap, and we're not going to read the whole thing, but there is a video that actually, if you can see it, guys, it looks pretty good. It is it is just what's going on there, you know. But but the article itself, Jen, it just went over what we talked about last week. Last week we
Yeah,
had learned
but
about it.
some people might not have been here. The biggest ecological disaster in the Arctic has just happened, and it's way below, the level of awareness of any of the newscasts. I haven't seen this on TV. Have you?
Not much, and people on Twitter were bitching about the same thing, and so I put up our show from last week and said we covered it
Yeah.
because we did. But it happened what 10 kilometers west of Norilsk, which is a big city
Hmm.
in the far northern part of western Siberia.
That's
And
right.
they said a small fire followed the spill after a vehicle drove into it and ignited the fuel. I mean, could it get any
Oh,
worse?
jeez.
It couldn't even
It
get any
sounds like a
worse.
disaster film. It really does.
Jeez, it's like it is a disaster film. But this article it just goes over, and we have a list of everything. It goes over what happened. And then I think you want to move on to the next one so that we can update on what's going on. All right, the next one comes from This was a good one, Jennifer. If you want to start this one is Gizmodo Earther, and they have some pretty good stuff. They said that this huge diesel spill has reached a sensitive Arctic lake. And Jen, if you want to take this one, go for it. You start this one and let everybody know what's going on. And I'm not, we'll see if we read the whole thing, because we always have a lot of stuff to go through. And when it's the Arctic, which is our passion, yeah.
An article from Gizmodo. It came out this last Wednesday. So pretty new, pretty fresh off the shelves. And it's about Norilsk. And Siberian officials say huge diesel spill has breached a sensitive Arctic lake. How sad is that? A major diesel spill from a power plant in Siberia has reached a fragile freshwater lake that leads to the Arctic Ocean, according to regional officials. That could create an ecological collapse. Speaking to reporters earlier this week, I'm not going to try this name, Governor Alexander Oos said the spilled fuel has reached Lake Piacino. This is a beautiful lake about 70 kilometers long, Oos said Oos, as reported by Interfax. Naturally, it has both fish and a good biosphere, but it's impossible to predict how it will bear this brunt later. The official
Go ahead.
The important thing right now, he explained, is to prevent the spilled diesel fuel from reaching the river, which flows into the Kara Sea in the Arctic Ocean.
That's the scary part.
Spill happened at a power plant. Oh my God, it's so scary.
Yeah.
The fuel spill happened at a power plant near the Siberian city of Norilsk, May
I mean,
29th.
there's no sound.
A fuel reservoir at the power plant leaked the diesel fuel after its pillars collapsed, very much likely due to the
Hang on. Somebody said there's no sound, Jennifer. Can you check your sound? Somebody said there's no sound on Skype. I don't know what, yeah. What could be possibly wrong? Why do things go wrong? Just a minute, everybody. Okay.
Is that right? So
Yeah,
no
they
one can
can't.
hear me? Is
Yeah,
that right?
right. Hang on, we'll fix this. What would it be like without technical difficulties? Let me make sure
But you
you're.
can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. You're not muted at all. Very quiet. Is the video silent? I don't know what's going on. What happened tonight? Had a beautiful thing set up. So what's going on? I've got you set up perfect. The movie was loud. The microphones are good. What's going on, guys? Oh, Jen's back now? What the heck was that all about?
Huh?
Jen, speak.
I didn't change anything. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, everybody.
Can you
Hi.
guys hear me?
Yeah.
Because I didn't change anything.
All right,
Yeah.
let me get I'm so sorry. Jen's back. Whatever happened? Hi, Wendy. I talked to
I
Wendy
don't know.
today. Wendy's my sister. Hi, Wendy, darling.
Hi.
I'm glad you're here. My sister from another mother, but we are like the best of friends, cousins. Oh, Jen. Okay, so let's continue now that we got over our little technical things. That's what happens when I do it half-assed. And we change to Sunday.
It's fine. You can't control technology. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I know. I
You
know.
just can't get too excited about it.
Right. All right.
Uh,
Did
the
everybody
accident
hear?
prompted,
Did they
huh?
hear the video? Did they at least hear the video? Because I will I will play it at the end. Of course, I didn't know if they heard the video. I had problems with my audio from the get go. So, okay, Jen.
Okay. All right. We're all back. Let me know
Yep.
if you can't hear me again.
Okay.
The accident prompted Russian President Vladimir Putin to declare a state of emergency in the afflicted region, and hundreds of workers were dispatched to contain the spill. The oil threatens to contaminate local waterways and the sensitive Arctic ecosystem. Norilsk Nickel, the company responsible for the accident, is denying the claim made by Krasnoyarsk officials. Last week, a spokesperson from the company told AFP that the spilled fuel had been contained, and in a video conference held yesterday, Norilsk Nickel officials said samples had been taken from the lake showed 0.0% contamination. Ah, little fishy to me. In stark contrast, they're reporting high concentrations of polluted water in the area beyond the floating containment boom. I mean, how could they have 0.0?
They're saying there's no sound. Jennifer, there's a lot of we can't hear you again. I don't understand. I haven't done a thing. What's going on, guys? Total audio loss. Boy, I hope we don't have to start this over. We never have that. We have a lot of people with us too. What's going on, guys? You're all good. Now you can't.
Okay, I plugged it back in.
Maybe somebody's doing this. All right, everybody's loud and clear. Thank you, Grateful Heretic. All right. Sunday night at the movies.
When they start reporting 0.0 contamination, when all this polluted water's running into a lake and they're just containing it, and they said 0.0, that's very fishy. There's a lot of cover up going on here. Norilsk Nickel has a very poor safety record, which may have contributed to the accident. The company has been accused of using global warming as an excuse for inaction. Last week, Greenpeace Russia issued a statement accusing the company of trying to avoid liability for the accident by invoking climate change. It went on to note the company could not be unaware of the risks of permafrost thawing. I mean, if you have a huge, giant diesel tank, huge 30-year-old diesel tank, squarely on the permafrost, how could you be unaware of the risks of the permafrost thawing? I call bullshit on that, right? So it was obliged to conduct a more thorough monitoring of soils, prevent the possible destruction of dangerous infrastructure. The Norilsk area is hardly alone in facing problems from thawing permafrost. A 2018 study, so 2 years ago, shows that a third of Arctic infrastructure sits on ground that could thaw out by mid-century or
I
years
see
or
what
5
it
years,
is.
right? Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
mid-century.
We can't show the
Yeah.
articles. Every time I put up the
Why?
I don't know. Every time I put up the article, the and I've got all the bars and I've got everything. Every time I put up the article, we can't hear you. This is
Oh, really?
ridiculous. Yeah. They can hear me
Oh,
breathing,
that's
but
so
they can't.
strange.
Yeah, I hope that we don't now. We can't put up these
Yeah,
wonderful articles.
there's a lot of heavy breathing going on.
I'm trying not to. I'm not breathing hard. So guys, I guess we're not gonna I don't understand it. It is giving me this weird stuff on the all right, well just keep going and we'll try our best to get through this without everybody
That's
seeing
the
the
end of that
article.
article.
Aw,
So
all
that
right.
was the Gizmodo article. So we're done with that.
Okay.
But, I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have the next
Okay.
article.
So,
Go ahead, Jed.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's
You want
going
to,
on.
you want, it's all right. Do you want to take this one away or do you want to discuss the previous article?
No,
I'm a little thrown off
me
center
too.
here.
Me too. I don't understand what's
It's very
going on.
difficult to try
Well,
and do a
I'll
show under these
I
circumstances.
know. And there's nothing that I can see that's wrong with anything. All the sound is good. There's nothing X'd out. There's nothing wrong. So we'll go on. I'll start this article and we can put this article up and see if you can hear me. All right, guys? We're gonna try one more time. Hey, you know what? It's Sunday night. Maybe there's something funny about Sunday night. But let's see. You guys tell us if you can hear me. This one is criminal case, and it is opened again against the Norilsk mayor following the massive Siberian oil spill that threatens the Arctic Ocean. Now, let me know if you can hear me. Nearly 2 weeks after an ecological disaster has shocked environmental activists both in Russia and abroad, the top local official in Norilsk is to be prosecuted for negligence. Now, I've got some ideas on this one after we read it because I just think, what would be happening in the United States right now? Mayor Rinat Akhmetichin is subject of a criminal case over the oil spillage. According to investigators, Akhmetichin knew about the amount of fuel leaked, but he failed to take the necessary measures to tackle the initial damage. He is being charged with non-fulfillment of his official duties during an emergency. So specifically, prosecutors allege that he neglected to properly coordinate the work of the city administration and didn't organize sufficient environmental monitoring. So on May 29th, when the 20,000 tons of fuel was spilled after the accident, it belongs to that Norilsk nickel company, and it's owned by a Russian oligarch billionaire, Vladimir Potanin. This diesel, it seeped into the soil and contaminated the nearby reservoirs, and they're really worried about the Pyasino Glacier Lake, which is already pretty much has been destroyed. It's just so sad, Jen. Norilsk was a former gulag labor camp, and it's the world's northernmost large city, lying inside the Arctic Circle. And it's home to the largest known nickel, copper, palladium deposits in the world. Remember, we talked about that last week. While this makes the area economically viable, the side effects have created huge pollution, and the locality is notorious for acid rain and smog. And you know what, Jennifer? I saw pictures of from 2016 where it actually rained down. It looked like blood. Seriously, up there. And I also
Oh
have,
no.
yep, and I have some Twitter stuff to pull up too that shows that has I found some graphics that show some pictures, so we can do that out, a little bit later. So
Mhm.
I hope that the sound comes back. I'll finish, or I'll read this one a little bit more. Now on June 3rd, it showed that a visibly angry President Putin demanded that the incident be dealt with as a federal level emergency. Remember, he said he was so pissed because it took them, he said he had to find out from social media. According to the Russian Ministry of Natural Resources, the cleanup will take at least 10 years. And Putin is making the company. He said, you are covering the expenses. So I guess the government is not going to cover any of the expenses. They're going to make the company do it all. That's what they're going to do. And so the next article, which is the FT one, this is where Norilsk hits back at the fuel spill claims. If you want to take this one, I want to
Yeah,
just try
sure.
to put it up for a second. And everybody see that picture? That's what's behind us. Can you please tell me if you can hear Jennifer? Jennifer,
I hope so.
test
Yeah?
and see if
Can you
they can
hear me?
hear you. I'm waiting to
All right.
see.
Norilsk hits back at fuel spill
No.
claims. Can you
Okay.
hear that?
No, they can't hear it,
World's
so
largest. Oh
they can
no.
hear you, but not with the article up.
Oh, that is just too weird, right?
Yeah, it's just too weird. I don't know what the hell's
Okay.
going on. But read, go, talk.
All right. So this is from FT, Financial Times, very high-end financial publication. World's largest nickel and palladium producer disputes officials' reports on extent of Arctic disaster. Norilsk Nickel, the world's largest nickel and palladium producer, has denied claims that an enormous fuel spill has reached a big Siberian lake. Why are they denying it? They always deny, deny, deny.
Ugh.
It's awful. Saying it has largely contained one of the worst environmental disasters in Russian history. President Vladimir Putin declared a state of emergency last week after a collapsing storage tank leaked 21,000 tons of diesel fuel into two rivers near Norilsk, an isolated city inside the Arctic Circle where the company's operations are based. The region's governor on Tuesday said the fuel had flowed into a large lake that flows into the Kara Sea. The fuel got into Lake Piacino. It's impossible to predict how it'll cope. So now it's the lake's problem to cope with this. Alexander Oos said in an interview with state television. Now the important thing is to stop it getting into the Piacino River, which flows north. And of course, any river that flows north that's inside the Arctic Circle is going to go where? Right into the
Yeah.
Arctic Ocean.
And that's what they're
However,
worried about.
yeah, and it's a very fragile environment. It's very sad. This is a really, really, really huge thing to happen in the Arctic. However, Norilsk told analysts and investors, talking to the money guys, later on Tuesday that special containment booms had stopped the spill from spreading to Piacino Lake, and there was no risk of pollution in the Kara Sea. Oh, that's nice. There was no risk, even though you've just leaked out all this diesel's going in the river
Horrible
going
stuff.
north. There's no risk. Satellite photos show the diesel spill is confined to the Abarnaya River, said Chief Operating Officer Sergei Dyachenko. I have to tell you, the distance from Piasino Lake to the Kara Sea is more than 500 kilometers. Well, okay, so it's 500 kilometers, but it's just going to keep going. It's going to hit it, don't you think?
Yes, I do. And there's a picture here, and I'd like to show it, but we can't hear you if I have that on. Well, I showed it, but they can't hear you. All right, we're back on you.
All right. Vladimir Potanin, the oligarch who is Norilsk's chief executive and largest shareholder, has said the company will pay the full cleanup costs, which he estimates at approximately $150 million. However, environmental groups say the costs could rise several times over. That's a pretty tough estimate they've made if it's going to rise several times over. Russia's environmental agency will levy a fine on Norilsk at the end of June. Norilsk also disputes officials' claims that it waited 2 days to report the spill before Mr. Oos learnt of it on social media. The company says it informed the government 25 minutes after it began. Mr. Putin has ordered a criminal investigation into negligence over the report, in addition to a separate case over the environmental damage, under which power plant's director was taken into custody. Norilsk blamed the disaster on abnormally high temperatures caused by climate change that warmed the Arctic permafrost on which the tank stood, weakening its foundations. Mr. Putin ordered the officials last week to introduce legislation that would prevent similar incidents from happening again, and ordered an inventory of all other infrastructure facing similar threats. Well, that's going to be really challenging for Russia to have an inventory on all infrastructure facing permafrost melting threats. The permafrost is melting everywhere. This is going to be a cascading disaster.
The guy said it wasn't even they said they're lying somewhere. Somebody's lying somewhere because he said it wasn't, right? Did you get to that part yet?
Yeah, I just got down to the facing other threats. Sergei Malyshev, Norilsk's chief financial officer, said the company had not used precise monitoring on the permafrost before the accident. Oh, they're just not going to look at it. It's ostriches. You look at it, and therefore it doesn't exist. And guess what? You don't have to ever deal until shit happens like this,
Yeah.
Mr. Putin gave Mr. Potanin a public dressing down. Oh, that must have been fun.
Right.
Over the accident last week. He said the cleanup will cost billions, and how much does one container you're going to change cost? One fuel reservoir costs several times less. It's just not comparable, Mr. Putin said in a televised meeting in the Kremlin. So Putin's pissed.
Yeah, he's
Putin's
pissed.
way pissed.
Because it makes
pissed
he looks bad. He looks bad. And you know what's really funny here is that, after Chernobyl and they didn't tell the whole world and all that, and now Putin, now it's out there. The world knows, and he's mad. But I just wonder if this was happening in the United States. Would we be telling the world?
Yeah. And now Putin gets into the blame game. He says, if you'd replaced it on time, there wouldn't have been any environmental damage and the company wouldn't have to spend so much. Pay as much attention to this as possible inside the company. Analysts say the incident could add a number of foreign investors restricted from owning Norilsk shares because of environmental concerns, but its dividends should remain safe. As long as the dividends remain safe, we don't care. We believe that the company will be able to manage the restoration costs and would not expect any change to the shareholder structure or dividend policy, said analysts at the BCS Golden Prime. Well, that's brilliant. If you don't have to worry about it, then everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, right. It's just like out of mind. What is it?
I know.
Denial. Out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of
That's
mind.
right. It's
And so
just
we
like
have,
this is like a test of the human condition,
oh,
it's almost like a morality tale, and it just like, how selfish are you? If you're selfish enough, XXX, you're going to end up destroying the environment.
oh.
And
They are
that's
selfish.
what
They're
it
selfish.
is.
Everybody, they're
Yes.
all oligarchs. They don't care. And this is a big mine of palladium. I mean, this is a big place. And, Jennifer, I have some, maybe I could pull the pictures up and see if that worked. The people, the indigenous people are just beautiful. And they have fairs there and they have, I just wonder, maybe I could pull up an image, but I don't want to wreck everything right now because we have another article, and let's test this and see if I read it, if we can see the article. And we'll test our next time, Jennifer, we'll just test earlier. That's all. All right, let's see if you guys can hear me with this article. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just the Moscow Times. And they're saying it's going to be years to clean up. So can you guys hear me? I can't. I lost my chat. Can you hear me? If you can, say yes. So they detained 3 staff members of the power plant, according to the Moscow Times. And environmentalists are saying, Jen, that this is the largest to hit the Arctic. It makes me want to cry. I
Yeah.
did cry. I'm not crying now, but and this is not the only one that's happened. We're going to show you what what there's a couple of other charts I have that I got from Twitter, but they said those working at the site already have seen the animals, but they've seen the first effects, including dead muskrats and ducks. And I'm afraid it's not going to just be that.
That's so sad.
It is. It's horrible. It's just always the ecosystem. Years to clean up. You know what's going to happen. Um, the investigative committee looking into this accident said it had detained the director of the power station, Pavel Smirnov, maybe a little bit too much Smirnov, and the 2 engineers on suspicion of breaching environmental protection rules. Okay, so they have some protection rules in Russia. Ooh, okay. But the company, of course, considers this measure to be undeniably harsh, the company said. But, what's missing from all this, right, Jen? Climate change, permafrost. All they said was it wasn't built, but that if a bird lands on diesel fuel or a muskrat swims through it, it's condemned to death. Workers in waterproofs were using booms, and the booms, from what I read in other things, the booms weren't containing everything, but it's the reddish brown diesel on the surface of the river, and they're pumping it into the big tanks. Those of you who saw our beginning video, I hope you saw it. I'll play it again. I showed that stuff. But they said they're going to be removing diesel fuel from the Ambarnio River for at least 8 to 10 days. It's going to go, but they'll need years. And the guy in the beginning video did explain how they do a mechanical cleanup. And it was very interesting. They call this the mechanical stage, and other methods will have to be used to absorb it and cause it to break down. But Jennifer, what they're really worried is about the Kara Sea. I'm worried about the
Yeah.
Kara Sea. Don't we have enough
Yeah.
problems? Oh my gosh. But they said that this tank had required major repairs. All the articles are saying the same thing, but repairs, and they continue to use it. So boom, an accident. So Norilsk Nickel has an oligarch owner, and just like happens in the United States, they didn't want to spend the money to fix it. And even Greenpeace, they're pissed off because they said if it does, it's going to be a disaster. Now, Norilsk had a conference call, And they said, oh no, they denied the spill had reached the lake, saying the company had not found contamination there. But do you trust the company to be the arbiters of what's happening? I mean, why isn't the government doing more? Unless it is, but maybe, it's not like the United States, so it is different. They've got 700 people. They have 700 people cleaning up this mess.
Yeah.
700
Well, it's
people.
huge. And it's really like they think like the booms, those little things that the floaters, they're
Yeah.
not going to really, it goes under those. It's, it's definitely going up into the Arctic Ocean. There's no question about it.
It's
Yeah.
and you look at the picture, the graphic that we put behind us, and all of those waterways that are interconnected, they're all now full of nickel tailing, that red stuff, and it is horrible. It is absolutely horrible stuff. It really
No.
is. And I mean, it's like, are we ever going to end this, Jennifer?
You shouldn't ask me
I
questions like
know.
that.
I know.
So I'll give you bad answers.
Yeah. Well, now I guess we're going to move on because we've done what we could do with that. And the next article, Jen, was the one from, I want you to handle this
The
one.
Guardian.
Yeah, the climate worst case scenarios may not go
Yeah.
far enough. I'm going to try one more time to see if I can pull the article up with you talking. And I don't know if it's going to happen. Again, I want everybody to tell me, and then Jennifer and I will have to test and see if this is
Okay.
working. So here's the article, and it's up. Can you hear Jennifer, guys? I know that this is a pain, but we're really sorry about these technical things. And Jennifer, why don't you start? And if they can't hear you, I'll take it off.
How sensitive the Earth and the climate is to changes that we're inflicting upon it. Worst case, global heating scenarios may need to be revised upwards in light of better understanding the role of clouds, scientists have said. Remember, guys, we talked a couple of times in last month and maybe the month before about clouds and how important clouds are to the climate. Recent modeling data suggests that climate is considerably more sensitive to carbon emissions than previously believed, and the experts said the projections.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time concentrating with all this background noise there. Recent modeling data suggests the climate is considerably more sensitive to carbon emissions than previously believed, and experts say the projections had the potential to be incredibly alarming, though they stressed further research would need to validate the new numbers. Modeling results from more than 20 institutions are being compiled for the 6th assessment by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is due to be released this next year. Compared to the last assessment in 2014, Sandy, could you mute yourself? I'm picking up all kinds of noise. Thank you, just on Skype. Compared with the last assessment in 2014, 25% of them showed a sharp upward shift from 3C to 5C in climate sensitivity, the amount of warming projected from a doubling of atmospheric carbon dioxide from the pre-industrial level of 280 parts per million. This has shocked many veteran observers because assumptions about climate sensitivity have been relatively unchanged since the 1980s. So they are revising the whole way that they think about climate sensitivity and how quickly Earth systems could change. That's a very deep concern, Johan Rockstorm, director of the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, said. Climate sensitivity is the holy grail of climate science. It is the prime indicator of climate risk. For 40 years, it has been around 3 degrees C. Now we are starting to see big climate models on the best of supercomputers showing things that could be worse than we thought. He said climate sensitivity above 5 degrees C would reduce the scope for human action to reduce the worst impacts of global heating. Fancy talk for humans. We're going to have a very hard time doing anything about this because the Earth is more sensitive than previously thought. We would have no more space for a soft landing of 1.5 C, not that we ever did, above pre-industrial levels. The best that we could hope for is to aim for 2 C, he said. Worst case projections in excess of 5 degrees C have been generated by several of the world's leading climate research bodies, including the UK Met Office Hadley Centre and the EU's Community Earth Systems Model. So this article is pretty long, Sandy. It goes on like for several more paragraphs, but I think we got the main thing. Okay, this one thing I really want to read. Clouds will determine humanity's fate, whether climate is an existential threat or an inconvenience that we will learn to live with, said Palmer. Most recent models suggest clouds make matters worse. So
Wow.
they are continually changing the climate models because remember several months ago we read that about clouds and they had just like not even put clouds in as a
Yeah.
factor. Now they're starting to see clouds are actually making climate change worse, as well as the aerosols that are in the air. So, it's kind of like keeping along the same theme that things are worse than previously thought.
Faster than previously expected. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. One more kind of key paragraph, and then I'll give it over to you.
Oh, that's fine.
This figure has the potential to be incredibly alarming if it is right, she said. But as a scientist, my first response is, why has the model done that? Because she's seeing her models and they're not behaving as she's expecting. We are still at the stage of evaluating the processes driving the different response. So again, they're finding out that the sacred models that they have created are just not working. The more we learn, the more fragile the Earth system seems to be. No shit. And the faster we need to move. Well, we haven't really moved fast yet, so that's going to be interesting to see how we do that. It gives even a stronger argument to step out of this COVID-19 crisis and move full speed towards decarbonizing the economy.
Well,
The end.
those are the buzzwords. Decarbonize, decarbonize. Everybody says we have to decarbonize.
But they're dreaming. It's not going to happen.
Well,
It's not going to
they're
happen.
going. I mean, all the scientists, they're dedicated. They're going to do it. They're going to try it. I mean, no matter what, it's going to be tried. I don't know if it could be, I mean, it seems to me then if you are trying to attain decarbonization, then the tipping of the scale, okay, decarbonize, let's go up in our business as usual. Let's just now make everything, let's create more consumers of new technology that is reduced carbon, but it doesn't seem like it's going to change anything. It's still the growth paradigm. It's still the growth model, right?
Yeah,
Grow,
absolutely.
grow, grow. Wow,
That's the motto.
that's the motto.
Grow, grow, grow. Burn, baby, burn.
Well, we
Yeah.
have another article. This one, if I put it up. I'll start it because
Yeah.
I don't understand what is actually happening here. It was a guest post in Carbon Brief. And this one goes on to talk about cost of extreme weather due to climate change is severely underestimated. Okay, well, it hasn't been severely underestimated by any of us. I mean, we've been talking
No.
about this for quite a while. I mean, and Nicholas talks about it, and Antonio talks about it, and Stuart Scott talks. I mean, everybody talks about it. But here we go. Carbon Brief is now. And they've got over the past decade, a compelling body of evidence has linked a range of extreme weather events to human-caused climate change. Duh? Okay, I'm sorry. It just seems the area of research known as event attribution provides a means for climate scientists to examine how the severity and frequency of weather events such as heat waves, droughts, and storms are changing as greenhouse gas concentrations rise. Now, this is why it's these new journal papers. They've attempted to open up a new avenue for qualifying the attributable costs of weather-related disasters. We focus on the droughts and floods in New Zealand and the landfall of Hurricane Harvey in 2017. So using event attribution as the scientific basis for quantifying how extreme weather has changed, we've been examining the links between changes in extreme weather and their economic consequences. So, of course, economics is huge in this because we are all over the world. We are all into, making money and living in this capitalist. Pretty much every country has some sort of it. Maybe not North Korea, but if we can quantify the contribution from climate change to an extreme weather event, and we can also know the cost of the associated disaster, then we can put that financial figure on the climate change. So they're talking about quantifying, and the studies were when they looked at the droughts and floods in New Zealand, and then the landfall of Hurricane Harvey. In New Zealand, the Treasury estimated that 2 droughts in 7 and 13 jointly reduced the gross domestic product good in New Zealand by around New Zealand 4.8 billion. So in the US, that's 3.4 billion in 2017. So using the previously published methods, which use climate models to estimate changes in the type of weather patterns typical of severe New Zealand drought, we estimate that New Zealand 800 million, and which is US 568 million of this cost is due to climate change. So basically, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. If you guys want to read this one, it's very interesting, and I know a lot of you are probably interested in all the economic issues that go along with climate change. I just put up this interesting picture. This was the suspension bridge over the Te River in Otago, New Zealand during the floods in 2017. And this picture is just indicative of what happens all over the world. You see that one, Jennifer? Yeah,
Yeah, it's
all over the world.
absolutely destroyed.
Destroyed. And it
Just
goes on
destroyed.
to...
When
Go
these
ahead.
water events come, they are so huge. I mean, the Hurricane Harvey that they were talking about, I think at the beginning of this article, it was talking about Hurricane Harvey, and it was just like absolutely the whole place flooded in Houston, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just it will just destroy people's lives. Absolutely destroy them.
Well, they're all over the world. It's destroying people's lives. All these weather events. We're not even sure what's going to happen now with hurricane season. We're not having an El Nino, but it's still going to be quite the season. At least I think it was according to Nick. Wow, I don't know. But this article just goes on, and it just goes on to talk
Mm-hmm.
about more of the social costs and how the tools they use to quantify the costs. So I thought it was interesting because we started out with this horrible disaster in Siberia, in the Arctic, and the costs and who's bearing the costs. And we've kind of segued through to this one, which is actually talking about the costs borne by all. You know, it's going to be governments, it's going to be corporations, it's going to be insurance. So it's very interesting. And if you guys are interested, we have this in the write up already. So, and there's one more picture if you can see it. I'm just going to show the one more picture of destroyed in Port Arthur, Texas in 17, and it shows that the whole roof of this place is gone. It's just really upsetting. But if I show it anymore, they can't hear you. So we're going to then just
It's just a new feature.
no, I'll figure it out. This week, guys, I was on the phone with my carrier, AT&T. It's just really been kind of creepy. But I'm getting a piece. Osama, he's not with us tonight. He's helping me figure this whole problem out, and it's called what is it called? Bloat? It's like not in my stomach. It's some kind of technical thing, and he's going to help me out. We're going to see if we can fix this
Good.
stuff. Yeah,
Good.
we'll see if we can fix this stuff. So Jen, the big drag of the next one is that I really wanted to show it with you talking about it, and that is the May 2020. And I'm really not happy that this is it's not going to be able to be shown because there's graphs. But
I know. And I love graphs.
Yeah,
I really love
know.
graphs. Graphs tell a story that, you can't really understand any other way. And it's just really you can develop a really good understanding of, what you do now and the consequences of that later. And you can see change over time and all sorts of different measurements. But no, not tonight. We're not going to do it because I can't be heard. So I'll just go ahead and I'll read this. So guys, this is from the
I'm going to take myself off for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay.
You handle this.
All right, sure. Come back.
I will, I promise.
All right. So this one's from the Arctic News, and it just came out today, Sunday, June 14th. And it's from Sam Krana. I love Sam Krana. And it's called Fast Path to Extinction. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. May 2020 was the hottest May on record, the third monthly record in the year to date, even though there was no El Nino in 2020 yet. An El Nino event later in 2020, combined with further warming elements such as the loss of the aerosol masking effect due to the COVID-19 lockdowns, aka global dimming, guys. This is what we've all been wondering about, global dimming. And how would COVID-19 lockdowns and the decrease of carbon emissions, how would that all affect global dimming, right? Could trigger a huge temperature rise as the red trend, which you can't see because we can't have graphs and me at the same time. New feature. The year 2020 looks set or close to become the hottest on record as illuminated by the blue trend line. You all see the blue trend line right there? Sorry, I'm being facetious.
No, Jennifer, actually I could pull it up if I can show it, and then I can show it.
It's too awkward to go back and forth.
All right.
It's too awkward. You can share it. You can show it afterwards. That points to a continuing rise in reaching 3C degrees by 2026. So, we are pretty much at 2 degrees C right now, more or less. I think if you take it from the start of the Industrial Revolution, I think we've already gone up to C. Now he's saying there's going to be another degree added on by 2026. So in 6 years, another degree. And that's getting us to the threshold of when all these tipping points happen for the methane in the Arctic, you know? The May 2020 ocean temperature anomaly on the northern hemisphere was 0.94 degrees C, almost 1 degree C, or 1.767 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than the 20th century average, the highest May anomaly on record. So, you know, again, the trend, it's not really so important, the details, but the trend is irrevocably on the polynomial trend line exponentiation.
Wow.
Now, this next part's very important. We're going to talk about the latent heat. The latent heat tipping point threatens to be crossed as the ocean temperature anomalies on the northern hemisphere reach 1 degree above the 20th century average, in turn threatening the methane hydrate tipping point to get crossed, i.e., as ocean temperature anomalies on the northern hemisphere become higher than 1.35 degrees above the 20th century average. So what they're saying there is that there's a lot of latent heat, and it's keeping the temperature very, very stable right now in the Arctic. And that's because there is ice cover, and any heat goes into melting the ice, keeping the water and the temperature above in the atmosphere all at about the same temperature. But as soon as the Arctic sea ice goes, that buffer goes, and you're off to the races. And here he talks about it. The Arctic sea ice is getting very thin, and at this time of year, it is melting rapidly from below due to the rising temperature of the Arctic Ocean. The sea ice underneath the surface of the Arctic Ocean is disappearing rapidly due to the influx of warm and salty water from the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And I'd also like to mention rivers, hot Siberian rivers dumping into the Arctic Ocean, you know. An earlier analysis indicates that the latent heat tipping point threatens to get crossed as ocean temperature anomalies on the northern hemisphere reach 1°C above the 20th century average. Wow. As the above indicates, because y'all can see that graph, right? The tipping point, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say stuff like that. The tipping point was briefly crossed before, but this year it looks set to get crossed irreversibly, because you know how things cycle, right? And they cycle, and it doesn't like just go like that. It goes do, you know, kind of like back and forth. But at some point, that tipping point is going to be crossed permanently. At that point, there will be little or no Arctic sea ice left underneath sea surface all year long. So the sea ice has lost most of its capacity to act as a buffer to consume further heat arriving from the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And I don't know why they don't mention the Arctic rivers, because that's a big one. The Arctic sea ice volume has been at record low for almost all of 2020 to date, and that is the volume, guys. So we're not talking the extent, we're talking the whole chunk of ice. How big is it if you have the entire volume? Well, 2019 volume was at a record low from October, making that volume has been at a record low for almost 8 months straight. So what they're saying is the Arctic sea ice volume is as small as it has ever been, given where we are in any given month. Crossing the latent heat tipping point means that huge amounts of incoming heat will get absorbed by the Arctic Ocean instead of getting consumed by melting of sea ice, as was previously the case. Again, as the Arctic sea ice is there, it keeps everything stable. As it goes away, well, then all that energy is go into something else like heating water and exploding methane. As long as there is sea ice in the water, this ice will keep absorbing the heat as it melts, so the temperature will not rise at the sea surface. This is what we've been talking about. There is ever less sea ice underneath the surface to absorb ocean heat, and the amount of energy that used to be absorbed by melting ice, as much as it takes to heat an equivalent mass of water from 0 to 80 degrees. So they're saying, that's a pretty stunning statement. It's basically the amount of sea ice left, has kept everything very, very stable, but it's going to start heating water. So meanwhile, the global heating continues. At more than 90% of global heating is going into the ocean. So it's important to know that just because you don't feel it doesn't mean that it's not happening, because 90% of the global heating, actually 93.4% of the global heating, is going into the oceans itself. Only 7% is in the atmosphere and on the earth. As discussed in an earlier post, the loss of subsurface sea ice is only one of 10 tipping points hitting the Arctic. So the Arctic has 10 tipping points. This is one of those 10 pegs falling. As the temperature of the oceans keeps rising, more heat will reach the sediments at the seafloor of the Arctic Ocean that contain vast amounts of methane, as discussed in this page and this post. Now, danger is that this heat will destabilize the ice and hydrates, resulting in huge releases of methane. The methane hydrate tipping point threatens to get crossed as the ocean temperature anomalies in the northern hemisphere become higher than 1.35 above the 20th century average, which threatens to occur early next year. So what he's saying is the Arctic Ocean is going to get hot enough that the methane is going to start to melt. So that is basically the gist of this. And as he always ends his articles, the situation is dire and calls for immediate, comprehensive, and effective action as described in the climate plan, which nobody ever follows.
I hear you.
So,
Well, let me pull this up for a second so people could just see it since you're finished. And I'll just pull it up, and I'll have to figure out what happened. But guys, wait a second, and I'll put the article up, and then I'm going to start from the beginning just so you can see the graphics, and I can do my best with. The first one was the global temperature anomaly, and it had the temperature on the left, and then it had the years, and you can follow it up. You can see, I hope you can see it. You can see the graph going up and then she had gone down, and then she read the ocean temperature anomaly on the northern hemisphere. And again, on the left side, you see the temperature and the difference, and you can see how all the years it's going up. And then we had when she talked about the latent heat tipping, there's an Arctic sea ice volume, and there is, if we could make that a little bit bigger, you can see also that one with the same thing. It's just the different measurements, similar. And then, but it's interesting because on this one, you can see how it changes during the different times of the year. And the next one was ice, latent heat of fusion, and water, and then temperatures in the degree of Celsius, again on the left. Again, the links will be in here for you. It's as the ice heats up, 2.06 jgs of heat goes into every degree Celsius that the temperature of the ice rises. So you understand there's a lot here to unpack. He's got another one with the global ocean heat content and oceans, and showing there's this one with the round one, which showing the oceans absorbing 90%. So the last one that I'm just going to show you is the before 2012 thick sea ice and the after 2012 thin sea ice, and how the methane hydrates are bubbling up and it creates some ocean heat, and according to Sam Carana, the buffer is gone or going to be gone. And the last one was the different potential rise in the global air temperature at the land ocean surface level. So very, very interesting stuff. The colors on this one represent the cloud feedback and all the different, the seafloor methane, all the different measurements that he uses. And of course, in the end, a rise of more than 5C could happen within a decade, possibly by 2026. Humans will likely go extinct with a 3C rise, and most life on Earth will disappear with a 5C rise. In light of this, we should act with integrity. Now, with integrity, that could mean a lot of things, Jennifer.